Hi guys.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you, Amanda?
I'm good. I'm in the office today, so
Nice.
I'm gonna
Nice.
yeah.
Much cooler than I am.
Yeah, it's too hot. I don't like this weather. I'm trying to make the most of it. It's sunny, it's nice. People can be outside. But I'm melting. All right, I'm gonna grab my water really quick and then I hope you brought things to talk about because it's open forum day. Hey. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna get started. Welcome to lunch. Thanks for coming on a day when we had no meeting. Hopefully you had a nice relaxing weekend and were safe and are ready to get back to it. Or maybe you worked all weekend. I definitely had more going on than I anticipated. Can't complain. So today is open forum. So I thought it may be helpful to give you an opportunity to check in with us as a group, with me here as a resource. This is intended to give a little time to share victories, challenges, kind of where you are with your top 5. If you've had questions pop up, there's a good chance other people have as well. And just kind of where things stand with business. So I encourage you to jump in and kind of share your thoughts or feedback, questions, advice. This is, I'm just here to mediate the conversation and kind of jump in with answers or bits of info as needed. Just keep in mind that there's a group here, so I don't want to like spend the entire time talking about one person's question unless that's beneficial to everybody in the group. Sound good? Cool. Does anybody have something to start us off?
I guess I kind of do.
Okay.
So I've had that listing that's my parents, and with my parents it was kind of difficult because I feel like they wanted to price it at what they wanted, you know, and I kind of had to go with that. And it was a little overpriced in the beginning, and everybody that was looking at it said it was overpriced. So we dropped it, and then we dropped it again. And I just feel like now it's been on the market for, over 30 days, and we're not really getting any bites. Had like one showing yesterday, and it's just like not really a lot of people are going to look at it. And now I'm just like, well, what do I do? Because now I feel like it's just going to sit there because people see that it's been on the market for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, oh,
what
is there
price are you at now?
We're at $399, $900.
Okay.
Where is it?
So
Shorewood.
and it's totally updated. Is it 4-bed?
It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It's an awesome place. It's very surprising to me that it hasn't gone yet, but
and it's on Beverly, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a couple of like hindsight lessons there, right? It's always hard working with family.
Mm-hmm.
I am presently putting together 3 listings for family, and it's always a challenge, but this is my dad and my brother. Now that we've worked together multiple times, they have eased off.
Mm-hmm.
But every time it's the tension of trying to get the most for the house and not trusting that you're pricing it properly. This is a good lesson for anybody who's listing for anyone. There is nothing more valuable than that first week to 10 days on the market. So if somebody is all about pricing it over market value, that is when that's your pivotal time to reach an audience, which obviously this is hindsight for you, but just to kind of as a general rule of thumb and how to explain it to people who are trying to price their home higher, this is the time to grab a buyer. People are used to homes being on the market for 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 days before they have multiple offers. So if it's not priced right from the start, no one's going to make a move and it's going to sit, and then people wonder what's wrong with it. So that is definitely something that hurts the listing. And ultimately, you have to drop it and drop it and drop it and chase the market to the point where people see the value, and then they think you're desperate and they want to offer less than you're asking. Also less likely to have competition. So it's super anti, it's not very productive, and it's not to their advantage to test the market at a higher price, because people are ready to go now. If it's priced right, you're going to get offers right away. The other piece of that I'm seeing and I'm explaining to my clients, when I'm talking to them about listing their homes is, and you guys can chime in if you're seeing this too, we are seeing in general rule of thumb, Shorewood being part of that, if a home is priced at X dollars, the market value could very well be up to 25,000 over that asking price. Are you seeing this? Are you writing offers that aren't getting accepted and you're writing 15 over, 10 over? Seems ridiculous, right? So the thing is, this is a chicken and egg scenario, right? So buyers are used to writing well over asking price. This is happening in East Tosa, Whitefish Bay. Lots of areas are still seeing this activity. If a home is priced at the reasonable market purchase price value, people think they have to write over that. So if you're priced where you should end up, people will not make an offer because they think they have to write that much over. Does that make sense? So the thing you have to explain to your clients, and you can show them examples of homes that have sold in the area with, original price and purchase price, is that people are coming to the home expecting to have to write at least 5,000 over asking, if not 10, 15, 20, maybe even 25. So when you're pricing a home, you're not really pricing it at market value. Now, it's really important when you're looking at the comps to make sure that you're seeing that as the trend, because not every price point is following that trend, not every area. I'm not seeing it as much in condos. So it's important to see how most recently that activity is going. Maybe even go as far as calling other agents with listings in the area that are similar to see what kind of activity they have, or if they're under contract, how did that go? They can't tell you details, but they could say if they did well. They may even be able to say if they've gotten over asking price. But that's a really important piece of pricing a listing right now, is understanding the expectations of buyers walking in. If the price even is where it should end up, if the offers need to come in up here and people are in that mentality, then this price doesn't make sense. It's got to be down here for people to write over. That makes sellers really uncomfortable, right? That would freak me out if I was selling my house and I'm like, well, I have to sell it for less than what it's actually going to sell for. How can you guarantee me that people are going to write over? There's one of the old sayings in real estate is you can't price a home too low, because ultimately the market decides the value. So if you price it so low that people just go bananas over it, it's going to push up the price. Now, you don't want to be tremendously lower than you should be, because it still has to appraise, and an appraiser is going to have a hard time seeing a gap of over 20,000. Also, if you price it too low, you might miss the people searching within that price range. So it has to be reasonable, but really use your resources. Look at what's around that's on the market right now. Is there activity? Do they have offers? Are we seeing a slowdown? Has anybody noticed with the holiday and the weather, people going up north, that showings are a little bit spottier right now? Does anybody notice that? Like less competition? 4th of July weekend is a perfect example. I scheduled the showing on the 4th. There were hardly any other times filled up. It was a great house. It's priced well. We got an offer in right away. So there's going to be some of that now. We're seeing that little bit of a seasonal dip, but it's really spotty. People are around during the week. There's still activity. Not everybody's gone over the weekend, but it's really important to watch those trends. And one of the best ways I do that is to check in with other agents who are, have a listing that is similar or in the area, even if they're not with KW, just to check in and say, like, what kind of activity are you noticing? I want to, see if there's something I'm missing. And most agents will be happy to discuss. We're all in this together, right? We work with other brokerages too. So it's good to just see what their observations are, and when in doubt, go to the numbers, go to MLS and see what's still on there. How are my comps doing that are still on the market? And use that information to tell the story to your clients, because they might not trust your opinion, and especially if they know you're new or they know you outside of being a real estate agent, it may take those stats and other opinions to help them see what's going on in the market. Because ultimately you want them to know we're on the same team. We're trying to get the same thing. We want you to get the most money possible for this property. But if one of the goals is to sell it as soon as possible, then we need to be really conscious of how buyers, agents, and appraisers are going to perceive that list price and where we're going to end up on purchase price most likely.
Question.
Yeah.
So when you're in that kind of situation, can you talk about the psychology of having more open houses versus fewer? Do you reach a saturation point, or are you able to expose the house to more people? What's the psychology behind that?
In that scenario, having an open house, do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying, is that something that having more open houses would help, or would it hinder because it looks like you're trying to have too many open houses? How do you?
That's kind of what I felt like too, because I held 3 open houses and I was like, I feel like I'm holding so many now that people are, maybe not, they're like, what's wrong with this place?
Are you getting people at the open houses?
My first one I had like 5 couples walk through. Second one I had 2, and then the last one I had 2.
Have you done a price drop since the last one?
Mm-hmm. Or no, actually, no. The last one I didn't price drop it. I price dropped after the open house.
Okay. So making a price drop may be a good reason to do an open house. I mean, in truth, it's rare that a buyer comes from an open house. It's pretty uncommon. It's more likely you're going to meet new buyers or get feedback. At the very least, if you're not getting through to your sellers, one thing I've done in the past, especially if it's after you've done a price drop, hold another open house, have people fill out little slips or a check-in, survey or something where they can say what they think the price should be, what they think it'll sell for. The pros and cons, like what's keeping them from, what do they like, what do they not like, and just see what kind of feedback you get. If you do like a drawing for a gift card or something like that, if they fill it out completely, they're more likely to fill it out. You could even say, we're gonna have a contest, and if whoever gets closest to the actual purchase price will win a prize, and you can like do that on social media later. But they may be more honest that way, and they'll be sure to give you their contact info so that if they win, you can send them their prize. So I've done that before, and that's been helpful to have other people's opinions, on paper or on a tablet or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not getting activity, it could be the price. It could also be what's happening right now in the market. So that's, you don't want to just say it's dead,
Houses were kind of slow because of, when I started doing open houses, it was when all the protests were starting, and it's right in Shorewood. So it was kind of crazy over there.
Yeah. And, doing a campaign to build up to that open house can be good too. If people are going out of town on the weekends, maybe try a Thursday evening, build it up, maybe get a lender involved, have them push it out to their sphere, offer snacks, make it a little event where people can come through, stress the safety procedures, because there are definitely still people who don't want to be in open houses. So there's a lot of things at play here. So I don't think that's the be all end all. And I think more than anything, I think an open house is to satisfy your seller. So Alex, in answer to your question, like doing an open house to show them you're doing things is not necessarily a bad thing, but just doing a bunch of open houses where they're all the same, you don't do a build up marketing campaign, you don't do anything different about the open, the price hasn't changed before the open, you're just doing opens, you're probably going to end up sitting in a house by yourself, and that doesn't serve anybody, and the sellers are going to get frustrated. So if you're going to do it intentionally.
Jackie, what's the address?
It's 1514 East Beverly Road.
Thank you.
It was
What are you
eye-popping to
priced
me
at
that
now?
it was very, I didn't know that you don't usually get your seller from an open house. So that's a real interesting thing to me.
Yeah, most buyers come through. I mean, you will get some activity, and especially when it was really, really heavy, you know, if
Right.
people couldn't get in with their agent, they'd come in through an open. But a lot of times those are your looky-loos. I mean, on the occasion you do, but it's not the top way to get a buyer. Jackie, what's the price now?
$399 $900.
Okay, I just needed a reminder. I didn't write it down. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an awesome place.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it looked good.
Yeah.
It could be also that it's close to UWM, and maybe because of online classes, there's less demand. I don't know.
Well, the tennis courts
Yeah.
at the intermediate school are like the backyard, but there's like a fence there, and in my opinion, it's kind of like more privacy from
Mhm.
like another yard. You know, I don't know.
Jackie,
It
do you
looks
have
like-
it staged?
Do I,
You did the
I
virtual.
don't.
You did the virtual staging, but is it empty?
It's empty.
Okay. I wonder
Staging
about
could help
that
too. Yep, that makes a big difference.
It looks like it's close to the bike path. That's cool.
Yeah, when it comes to staging, that can be something that you, if you don't do it from the start, you could do. It really makes a huge difference. Everybody sets it up differently. The way I usually do with staging is if we just have a consultation, I'll pay for that, and I'll bring through a stager to offer suggestions and put a list together. Being that this house is empty, you may want to just go to a stager and say, hey, if we stage just a few rooms, if we staged, you know, the master bedroom and like dining and living area, and maybe just some towels or whatever, little
I
accessories.
take it back. The two upstairs rooms have like a bedroom set in them, so I guess
Oh, okay.
those are, but not like the living room.
Living area.
I don't know. Maybe people can't envision it.
When most people can't, so it's best to do that. Also, at this price point in the North Shore, a lot of homes are staged, so people's expectations are there. And even if it seems silly that the pillows and the cute, you know, vase or whatever are what they fall in love with, and it's not even part of the house, it still works. So that may be a beneficial thing to do as well. And you could go about it in a number of ways. They usually charge by month as far as how long you're keeping the furniture. So you could say, you know, if it sells in the first month, the staging cost comes out of the commission. You could split it with them. You could do a number of things as far as who's handling that cost, because it can add up. But that can also make a difference. It's a good point. So you've got a lot more tools in your toolbox to make that work.
Who do you
You
go
find
through?
a good stager.
For
do you find a
staging,
good
I use Room by Room. They're a smaller company. There's also Stonehouse. She's gotten quite large. They've like a good warehouse of things. Lindsay Weber. I'm trying to think who else people use. Those are usually the ones I'll go to. They all work their pricing differently too, so it's not a bad idea if you've got some time to call a few stagers or check out their websites and kind of see what their pricing is structured like, because it's all a little different.
How much
But
is
that
the,
could
I
be-
know you had mentioned a consultation where they kind of just go through the rooms, and I know Paul Nikolic does it that way too. How much is that usually run?
Usually around 200, like 175 to 250. Depends on the stager. The one that I usually bring in, I've worked with a lot, and so we kind of like, I think I get a discount because of that if I do it more regularly. But I have an eye for staging. I like staging. I can make a house look great. I've got my own like mini staging supplies. But at the end of the day, it has value when you bring in an expert and they give their opinion, then you're not the meanie making them move stuff around. or get rid of stuff or telling them their things are too much. So it's worth that to me to have somebody else come in and be that person. But there are times when I have like friends, or it's just a small place and it just needs a little bit of something. I've got a stash of pillows, towels, accessories, a couple of small chairs, a couple of rugs, some lamps. It is a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie. I have to haul it out of my storage unit in my condo and carry it in my car and blow up air mattresses. It takes a lot of time. It's not really worth my time anymore, quite frankly. But for the first few years, I did do that because I can pull that off and it does make a difference. So, but for an empty house, you probably need a stager to get furniture in there.
So can I ask a quick question about that? Amanda, how often did that come out of your pocket, or how often do you charge for that?
So for the walkthrough, I usually include that as part of my marketing budget from the commission. And I tell them that, like, I'm going to have a stager come in. This is not additional cost to you. This comes from the marketing budget from the commission. So they understand, like, where is the 6% going? And then when it comes to actually renting furniture, it's case by case. You know, I have one where it's a single table and she's giving me a discount, and this is a 3-time client. So I'm just covering the cost of it. If it's like a whole living room and, you know, I know it's going to be on the market for a couple months, then I'm probably talking to the seller about how that's going to work. And I kind of connect them to the stager directly. Another thing that some stagers will do is they won't just do the walkthrough, but they'll offer to come in with their team and execute the list they gave you. So if it's a occupied home, and they're just using the things that people already have, maybe adding a few things here and there, they may come in for an hourly rate and do the work. So if you've got somebody who's not, either doesn't have the time or can't physically be moving furniture around and stuff like that as a seller, you may be able to have the staging company come in and do that. And with that cost, I depending on what it is, it's usually something I absorb into my marketing budget. But it does depend. You got to really watch your numbers. You don't want to go broke.
What do you think about virtual staging for photos?
I'm not a fan. I think it does make a difference in pictures and helps people visualize, but it looks very fake. It gets people in the door, but then they're disappointed the minute they walk in because it's not there. You know, you want to, in my opinion, with a listing, you want to set up expectations of something equal to what they're going to see, or what they're going to see is a little bit better. So what you're putting out there in MLS should grab people, should get their attention, should look nice, should, you know, be thoughtful about how your pictures are being taken, pay a professional for God's sake. And then when you go in, it should either match or look better. So don't set expectations up here and then people walk in disappointed. You're never going to get an offer from that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a
That's
question.
my opinion.
So I just signed a new buyer, but they also will be selling with me, and their house is not huge. Thank you. But it's just under 1,000 square feet, and every single room has giant furniture. So I mean, we went through the whole buyer thing. We touched on the listing thing, but like, we're not quite there yet. They're getting pre-approved. So I have to, like, at what point do I approach that? And what's the most delicate way of saying your house is small, you're making it look smaller? Get your crap out.
Do they have to sell in order to buy, or can they buy first?
It depends on how it goes. If we find the right property, I gave them kind of a list of what to go through, what stuff to, you know, decide what you're keeping, selling, start that now. And then they may do a contingency, but we'll know for sure once the pre-approval's in, so we know exactly how hard we can start. But then we're going to go back to it. And I mean, I'm talking like big sectional in the basement and huge furniture in the living room. So it's just like, it's everywhere. It's a lot of stuff in general. So
I would probably say we want to keep in mind that we want to make the house look as appealing as possible. And you have to consider that for any showing, you're talking 3 to 4 people walking through the house together as a little group, which never happens in real life. And so it's got to make sense for people to be able to flow through the space without feeling like they're bumping into stuff. And also, regardless of how real life is, people want a space to feel relaxing, inviting, not overwhelming. And they want it to feel spacious, even if it's not a big place. If you use like, these are the general rules of how a property should show, instead of saying, I think your stuff's big. I think you have too much stuff. Yeah. If you reference, and you can even have something on paper or whatever that says like, here are the general rules of staging, and they can see it. Then you can say like, if this is our goal as a team, ideally you're buying first, getting some things out of the house. We'll leave a few things here and there, and then it'll be easier to show because you won't have to deal with, managing showings, and it'll show, more spacious. It'll be, easier for people to walk through. So kind of referencing those rules of staging can be helpful. I also find that especially if people who are not very visual, showing them photos of other homes for sale to show like, one that's really crowded with messy, bad photos, and one that's like super cute and appealing because it's clearly been staged, and see how they react to those. Like if you were buying a home like this and you saw these listings, which one would you want to see more? And if it's still not clicking, you can even take them through a showing. Now, granted, keep in mind, it's still very much COVID. And if people live in the home, that might be a little more challenging. But if you can get them in a house to help them understand physically in person how it feels to walk through a space,
because
you may have to go that far.
And I showed them different pictures, and they were like, oh, that's just a lot of stuff. And I was like, yes, it's used as a rental right now, and this is what these pictures look like, and this is why. I think taking them to a showing would really, like a staged, that brilliant, thank you, I'm gonna do that. They're theatrical people anyway, so that would be right up their alley.
Yeah, and if you can build it into they're looking for a new place, and just say like, hey, this is kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to staging, that may help them too. But sometimes you have to actually get them in the door somewhere to understand. And this is a lot of extra work, but this is worth it to get them on the same page as you. Because getting an accepted offer is not the end of it, right? You've got to build that trust and that make them understand you're on the same team. If you're kind of on shaky ground when you get that accepted offer, the rest of the transaction is going to be hard. So it's worth putting in the time. It's worth building that relationship, taking the time, do some of these outside of the box things, because most agents don't. So when you get them through, you get their home sold, you get them a new great place, they can talk about the things that you're doing for them, and that's just going to spread the word about how you do a great job. So it's worth the investment of time, especially when you have it.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck. That's exciting. Who else has something? Are people working on their top 5? Is that still feeling overwhelming? Where are you with that part of the process to kind of get you to those 5 sales? Does it feel like they're connecting? Does it feel like there's a disconnect?
I've started writing out my buyers and sellers presentations. I'm trying to do it actually at the same time because it's like 2 threads that I'm trying to write this story for, and discovering that I have notes everywhere. So I have notes on whatever computer I had in my hand and notes in notebooks. So I'm just trying to compile that all and put that all together. I took the buyer questionnaire. It's pretty fun, and it's also kind of it's a thought starter, because I was thinking, what might I do that's differently? And I think one of the things that I was thinking is that maybe buyers have different ideas of what their dream houses are. So I'm going to add another line for buyer 2 to say what they think their dream house is, because that might start a good conversation going. Because at least from what I see on HGTV, it seems like not every buyers are in sync with each other if they're couples. So.
Yep, very true. Well, and that's why I like to send that brainstorming page ahead of time so that they have that discussion when I'm not around. And then they come to me with some conclusion, either a realization that they're on totally different pages or some sort of middle ground. So that's good. And you're talking about the questionnaire that I put on the Facebook group, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing to note too is that I have to update that for myself, because that bottom section, I take way more notes than there's room for on there. So it's something that I'll probably make on the second side of the page, but because they often fill out that chart for me and bring it, I usually have that in front of me as well. But you will likely find that you'll need more space.
Yeah, I didn't get the referral source line. What you were trying to get at there. Is that something that I would fill out then? Or
that is so for me, 85 to 90% of my business is referral and return client. So we track in Command where people come from. So I write in there who the referral was from, because my assistant then puts that into Command. When she puts in the new contact, she also connects them as a referral from somebody. Then we can track who is sending us people and make sure we're thanking them.
But that seemed like it was in a section that the buyer fills out, so I might move that piece.
Oh, I don't have them fill it out. I ask them all the questions.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I get as much info as I can ahead of time, and I'll fill it out ahead of time. But if there's anything I need to clean up and clarify, I'll do that while I'm talking to them. One of the reasons is so I make sure I'm pronouncing their name correctly. Also making sure I have their full legal name. And it may bring up it brings up the conversation of like, oh, where do you work and what do you do? And are you there? You know, how many days a week are you there? Rather than having them like looking down at a paper, awkwardly filling it out while I'm sitting there, I make it part of the conversation.
Okay, I thought it was something you sent out in advance, so that's helpful.
No, I use that while we're talking. Yeah, that's good. And you will find there's probably way more notes than you need to get something together. Right. And I can't stress enough that when you're putting these things together, whether it's just an outline or a packet or some resources for your clients, know that this is draft number 1, right? Like you're gonna put it together, you're gonna celebrate because you did, you're gonna use it, and then you're going to find that there's things you want to tweak, and then every once in a while you'll come back and make adjustments, and that's okay. It's a living document, presentation, outline. There's always going to be changes, not like every single time, but just keep in mind that you'll, after you've done 5 buyer presentations, take a moment to reflect what's working, what's not working, can I make any tweaks, and then move forward. So don't feel like it has to be perfect the first time around, because you're going to find, I continue to, after, I can't even tell you how many buyer consultations, 200 plus, I'm still adjusting and tweaking and changing, but I don't do it constantly. I just do it maybe once a year, just to refine it a little bit. And that's, I feel like it's less of a overwhelming task to put together, knowing that this is not the final draft forever.
Thank you.
Sure, that's good. Keep going. I want to see it. And you can practice on each other too, so you don't have to wait until you have a potential client. You could call each other and do a Zoom, go over your packets together, give each other feedback, give each other your presentation. It's a really great way to get some insight. Anyone else have a top 5 update or a challenge or something to celebrate?
So I have a client who we keep putting in offers that are like below market, right? Or below asking, like just below. And I keep trying to explain to them, like, that's not the market that we're in right now. And her response is always, if God wants me to have it, he'll give it to me. And I don't know how to handle that one. And it's like, this has been like 3 times now, and she doesn't seem to waver in this. I thought like, okay, I'll do it the first time and the second time, and she'll understand better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She'll understand I'm not getting the house that I want. I have to bring my best. But I don't really know how to respond to that one. I don't know what to do with it.
Tell her God
Okay.
wants you to overprice. God
Right?
spoke to you and to tell her.
Oh Lord. So a couple of things. One, did you do a buyer consultation with her?
She does not want to sign buyer agency. That is not a thing
So
that
you
she's
haven't
interested
had a
in doing.
meeting.
Well, I mean, we've talked on several occasions on the phone. I'm trying not to do really in-person meetings right now with COVID going on. I mean, and I've taken her to see a bunch of houses, so it's not like we don't talk when we're there. And then, you know, we catch up on the phone about what's going on and when we're filling out offers and things. But what are you?
Initial like meeting, phone, Zoom, did you have like a, I'm the agent, you're the buyer, here's what's going down?
So the other thing is she's using me for some reason when she has her sister, I guess, is also an agent. And so she keeps like, well, and I talked to my sister about it. And so she kind of comes back to me with other opinions, and that's a tricky one too. But
so here's my suspicion. I think
Uh-huh.
she's using you for showings and she's going to write the offer with her sister.
well, she's been writing offers with me.
Yeah, but her sister's not going to write offers under asking. It's a waste of her time.
Okay.
So I think the actual one she wants, she's going to write with her sister.
Okay.
So a couple of things. One, having a buyer consult would have avoided some of this. Even if she's not signing buyer agency, that's the time to say, here's what the market's doing. If you want a house that's listed for 130, you're probably going to have to pay 140 or potentially more. So whatever we're looking at, we need to keep in mind that what the market's doing, and you can explain that chicken and egg thing. Here's what people expect. Here's why we have to price this way. This price is not what it's worth. This is what it's worth. And you can support that with a market analysis, with comparables, but setting that expectation from the get-go can help you avoid that later. If she said anything in that meeting to say like, well, that's not what's going to happen for me, God's going to let me have this place for less than, you know, asking price versus every other person on the market, then that's a big red flag for you to say, okay, this person's not serious, or she doesn't have a grasp on what's going on in the market, and she's not trusting what I'm telling her about the market as her expert. I'm always wary of people who don't want to sign buyer agency. It's free unless you're charging a fee. There's really no reason for them not to, unless they really know what they're doing. They're an investor. They just want it cut and dry. It's so rare that people don't want buyer agency. So somebody who doesn't want it is a major red flag for me.
Okay.
Why doesn't she want buyer agency? Did she explain that to you?
No, not really. I mean, she kind of just pushed back on it, and she said, well, I don't want, you know, I don't know. It was a whole conversation.
So the fact that she doesn't trust you enough to understand what that's about, she doesn't trust you telling her what's happening in the market, there's a really good chance you're never going to get to that point. She's totally in a different headspace and doesn't see you as an ally, even if you're not in buyer agency. She's not trusting your opinion as an expert. If it's beneficial to you to go on showings and practice offers, fine, use it for that. But is she going to end up with an accepted offer? And once she does, is that going to be a smooth process? Probably not, because you don't have that relationship established. You don't have that trust built. And especially if she's got a sister who's an agent who she's got in her ear all the time, that's going to be a painful process for you, even if she does end up working with you on that.
If she won't sign, or say she did want to sign with you, does that mean then that her sister can't work with her?
Yeah, unless
she
has excluded properties that her sister has shown her. But I suspect that's part of her hesitancy, is to say that, you know, she doesn't want to sign with somebody and not be able to work with her sister if she wants to. But I mean, you can kind of see it like a dating relationship, right? Like you're like clearly she's like playing the field, you know, she has somebody else who she's having an emotional relationship with, and you're the one that's out, you know, takes her out and does fun things. But at the end of the day, is who's she more dedicated to, or who does she feel obligated to? Who does she trust more? So, you know, I think if you're getting something out of the relationship by going on showings and getting that experience and writing offers and getting that experience, that's fine. But just beware, this is likely not going to lead to a closed transaction.
They'll probably just cut ties though.
I would just say, hey, you know, I knowing what's happening in the market, based on my experience, I really don't think what we're trying is going to work for you. And my goal is to help you reach your goal. And if your goal is to purchase a home, what we're doing isn't getting us there. So we either need to change how we're doing this, or maybe you need to find somebody else who's going to get you there in your path. But this isn't making, we aren't making any headway.
Yeah.
So if you're like, I'm over it, I'm done, then I would just have a very frank conversation. But for future people, this is exactly why a scheduled appointment, Zoom call, if it's not in person, where you say, we're going to talk about this process and I'm going to tell you what to expect and I'm going to find out from you what you want, that needs to be scheduled in advance. A one-off phone call is not the same as somebody walking into an appointment with you and knowing, even digitally, knowing that they're going to listen to you as the expert. You're going to establish the game rules and qualify them. They're going to qualify you, and you're going to walk away together with a plan. That's why a buyer agency or a buyer consultation is so important. It doesn't necessarily mean they're signing buyer agency, though they almost always do. It's a chance for you to get a real good picture of what you're dealing with and to establish yourself as the expert and build that trust. It's not the same if it's phone calls back and forth. They're not in that mentality.
That's fair.
Amanda.
So it's definitely worth doing. Yeah.
Sorry. Also, can she mention that it's by law that we sign this if I want to disclose so much information with you or share so much, we have to move forward with this agreement?
So we've had that conversation for sure.
Did you? Yeah, I would be really careful about saying we have to or by law. I think I would always phrase it as to their benefit. So the benefit to you is I can find homes off market. The benefit to you is I can give you advice. The benefit to you is I can point out reasons not to buy. The benefit to you is I can negotiate on your behalf. It is a very competitive market. The best chance you have to get an accepted offer that closes in this market is to have an experienced, trusted agent in your corner. That's buyer agency. And before I even tell them anything about the contract, I say, guess what? You don't have to pay me anything. It does not cost you anything. Now, if you have a buyer fee, that's different. For me, I don't. So there's no cost to you. The seller pays my commission at closing. That's how I get paid. There's no additional cost to you to work with me. This is I'm trusting you to work with me, and we're going to get to your goals accomplished, and you're trusting me to help you get there. This is a mutually built trust relationship. I'm not getting any money until you close on a home, and I'm more concerned about you reaching your goals than I am about that check. Sometimes I'm not frank with people.
Amanda,
out about it.
Amanda, do you just? Oh, I'm sorry, Tracy. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, go ahead, Laura.
I'm sorry. I don't know why my camera is not. I came in differently today than in other days, and I don't know why my camera is not working. But in any case, Amanda, do you write that in the offer to purchase that the seller pays for that fee? Is that how you go about taking care of that fee?
It's built in. So if it's listed in MLS, there's a section in the agent view that says buyer's agent commission or co-broke commission, usually 2.4% of the purchase price. It's built into their listing contract. So if you have something on top of the 2.4%, that requires some creative language, because technically a seller can't pay the buyer's broker directly. So there's some creative wording there. Like if it was a for sale by owner, for example.
Okay.
But for that standard 2.4%, it's built in. Double check it in MLS and make sure it's there. But yeah, otherwise you're covered.
Can it also just be built into their closing costs, their mortgage if they're like, oh, we don't have, with all the other fees, the inspection and everything else, can that be rolled into our mortgage?
For a buyer?
Yeah, the
So you're
amount they're
talking like
lending.
if you added like a 595 or something?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, everybody just doesn't, for a first time home buyer, it's scary to how much, when you talk about all the things that they might come up with,
Mm-hmm.
appraisal fees, inspections, in earnest money, and then to have a $295 buyer agency fee. I'm just wondering if those can get kind of built into their closing costs. No.
No.
Okay.
It's a whole different story. Closing costs are with the lender. Commission is if you are charging $295 or something more, which you don't have to, that's only for listings. But if you choose to do that, it's something that they have to pay out at closing. And honestly, I believe the way it's set up is through the closing statement, that it's one of their costs as closing costs. So technically the check they bring to closing, and then title cuts the check to KW. But I've never done that, so I don't know for sure. But it's not, I don't think it's something they could like negotiate with their lender to build into the mortgage. That's a different party entirely, is the lender. They have nothing to do with your commission.
I just have a quick question so Jenny has written offers for these people. When you write an offer, don't you have to include a buyer's agreement?
No.
No.
So at the top of the offer to purchase, the very first line is where you tell the seller how
Right.
you're working together. Buyer agency, co-broker of the seller, both sides. That's the first thing you state on there. Even if you are working a buyer agency, you don't have to provide a buyer agency agreement. You're stating it on the offer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, good questions. Is anybody feeling like they've got some momentum going and something has caused that to start up? That momentum is so key to getting business rolling. Or are people feeling like they don't have any momentum? Is that more the case right now?
I feel like I had some, and then now maybe it's because of the holiday weekend. I'm like, I don't have a lot to do this week, and I'm like, what do I do now? Because I feel like a lot of people are getting buyers, and I feel like I'm struggling with that.
Well, and it does, it's an ebb and flow. It always is. This week and last week I had basically no new buyers, but the week before I had 4. So it comes and goes. I think the thing to keep in mind is what are the consistent activities you can do that bring you buyers. Mm-hmm. So if it's if it's open houses, doing open houses. If it's putting the word out there through social media or some kind of marketing, do that. If it's reaching out to your sphere, connect with people. If the goal is to get appointments, do whatever you can to get appointments. If it's a Zoom call with a friend that's coffee, do it. Make appointments on your calendar. That's going to lead to people connections. And if you don't have much going on, that's a perfect reason to get something on the calendar. And also, if you have lulls, that's your chance to say, okay, what are the things that when I am working with people, I'm like, man, I wish I had time to refine this or to get this on paper or to, do this top 5 item. That's when you should be working on those things. Because if you're focused and you're putting it out there that you're confident and ready and have your ducks in a row, then business is going to happen. If you keep doing those activities you should, if you're getting yourself that good base to make sure you're confident and ready to move forward smoothly when you do get business again, that's the key. Is there's always something to do.
Yeah. And so I have like some friends, recently, like even just going out, like there are 2 groups of people, this one couple who I knew that they were kind of looking and now they're kind of not. So I talked to them and I was like, well, hey, I'll email you and you can let me know what you're looking for and I'll just send you stuff. And, if anything comes up that you want to go see, just let me know. So I've been sending them stuff. But it's like, probably not until they see something that's like really worth it to go see, they'll ask me to go see it. And then another friend of mine was like super excited when I was talking to him about you know, doing real estate, and he's like, I've been wanting to find a duplex and like put work into it. He's like, I'm so excited we can work together. And so I've been sending him stuff, and just he never, you know, says anything. And now I just feel like he was maybe excited because he had some drinks. But nothing,
Do either of them have a pre-approval?
not that I know of.
Okay.
So
That may
Amanda,
be what's stopping them.
Okay.
so
So giving
Amanda,
them the resources to connect with a lender and get them going on that piece of it, making it a little easier for them, doing a little bit of hand holding, that's probably what's stopping them, because nobody's going to feel confident walking into a house or making an offer if they don't have a pre-approval ready. So look at the process as a whole. Where do they stand with all these pieces? How can I help them get those things done?
Okay.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So to piggyback on what Jackie is talking about, I have a buyer agency with the gentleman,
Okay.
and he refuses. I've given him resources, lender resources, I think 2 or 3, but he refuses to move forward to get a pre-approval. And he doesn't have the money in the bank, but he wants a duplex for investment when he retires. I just feel stuck on that. I just feel.
What's his
I've been
reason for
sending-
not getting a pre-approval?
I'm so sorry.
What's his reason for not getting a pre-approval?
He won't say the reason, but we talk about it. Like, I encourage him to do it. I'll send him things. I've sent him duplexes, you know, all the different things that we do. He'll say, we've even been out to view. He'll text me back if I send him something. Oh, I like that, but you're not understanding how can you move forward without either having money in the bank enough for it or have a pre-approval in your pocket. I don't know what to do with that. I just feel like it's at, I don't know, advise me.
So does he seem,
Does it sense to you?
I'm gonna put this out to the group. Does this seem like a motivated person who wants to buy? No.
I think he just
He's
wants
not motivated enough to get a
Mhm.
pre-approval. He's in
Mhm.
the early phases. He's in the feeling out the market, shopping, thinking
Mhm.
about it for the future. Now,
Mhm.
I will tell you from experience, and actually with myself as a buyer, there are people who are just kind of shopping around. They're not quite ready to dive in. They don't want to take the time and inconvenience to get a pre-approval, but they like the idea of this happening in the future. So when I've worked with people like that, or even with myself, I will like take my husband to a showing here and there because I want him to have in his mind, you know, what area we're looking for or what size we want. But I know it's not something we're going to jump on right away, right? So we didn't have a pre-approval. We just were looking. But it's important to note that at any point in time, that switch could flip. The right house pops up and you've got to go. So if you can, you know, as you're going back and forth at some point, it may make sense to mention, hey, if you get a pre-approval, it doesn't cost you anything. They usually last about 60 days. You can renew it. You know, maybe it's worth having one on hand just in case. No pressure. I'm not trying to get you to write an offer today, but I want you to be prepared in case the right place pops up. That might be one way that will motivate him to do that piece, knowing that you're not pressuring him. He doesn't have to be pushed to do it. Or maybe he hasn't seen anything that's grabbing him enough to make him want to go through that process, right? The lending part's the least fun. Have any of you gone through that before? It's like, I need this paperwork, fill out this thing, get this annoying thing from this annoying person. Like, it's just not fun. I'm not looking at houses. I'm not looking at pictures online. It's annoying stuff. So for somebody to want to do that, they've got to be really motivated. It's a really good qualifier for you to figure out how quickly you need to, you know, how much should I be touching base with this person? How often do I need to get them out on showings? If he doesn't have his pre-approval yet, he's not super motivated.
Correct.
But it doesn't mean he's not going to buy. It just may mean that he's not in a hurry.
Is it
So
possible
finding out.
Is it possible he might not know any lenders or is embarrassed to admit that he doesn't know what a pre-approval
She
is?
said she gave him some lenders already. So yeah, I think maybe further discussing what a pre-approval is. That's a good point, Alex, to make sure he's, you know, on the same page with you there. And yeah, perhaps the less pressure approach of saying like, it's just good for you to have it just in case, we don't have to write an offer today, but if you're thinking of buying in the next couple months, this is a good idea. If he's kind of close but on the fence, talking about how interest rates are so good right now and they're not guaranteed to stay that way, maybe
We had that
one
conversation.
thing to talk about. Yeah. With investment property in particular, as we get towards the end of the year, the competition ramps up because it's experienced investors with cash who are trying to unload it before the year's over. So if he wants to avoid that competition, it may make more sense to make this happen in the third quarter. Revisiting his goal date. When would you like to close on a property? Do you have a time in mind? And, with the approach of saying like, this is so I can best serve you. How, I want to get you to your goals on your timeline. Let's get on the same page about that. Okay, based on this, we know, accepted offer to closing is 30 to 60 days out. If we work backwards from there, it's going to take a little while to find a property. Okay, we should probably be looking today, or we should start looking next month. But you can kind of help him. We have to have an accepted offer by September for you to close on the place by the end of October. So giving him some more context to timeline and maybe making him think a little bit more about timeline, because perhaps he hasn't. One day could be all he has in mind.
Right.
But, kind of approaching it from that perspective of like, we're working together, we're working off of your goals and your timeline. How can I best serve you? I have the information about what the timelines are like in the process, what the market is doing right now. I have the resources for you. Let's make this happen for you.
Did you say, can I have my friendly lender call you?
You can. Yeah.
That would kind of put it right up to him, and then he would have to reply, I'm not prepared.
Yeah, and a lot of them have an online application. So if they're like, I work until 9 p.m. and I don't really want to talk to somebody on the phone, maybe just having them fill out an online application through one of your, one of your recommended lenders might be a way to go. Then you can give that lender a heads up. Hey, so-and-so is going to be filling out an online application. Let me know if they do. Having that communication with the lender directly to best serve them might be a good step too.
I do like that statement about the timeline. I'm going to follow up with that. Like,
Okay.
what timeline does he have in place for completion of that purchase? I like that.
Yeah, and Teresa, do you have him on auto emails? Do you have him on a subscription through MLS, or do you just send them randomly?
I just send him things, but you know what? I could learn how to do that. I should probably learn how to do that.
Highly recommend, because if he's kind of putting around and you're not getting anywhere and then you get distracted with other things, that subscription is regularly touching him. And if you set it up to alert you when he opens it, you don't have to tell him that part. And when he does open it, if you've got time, you can give him a call and say, hey, I was just checking in, see how you're doing. And you'll catch him as he's looking at the listings on his email.
So on MLS, in the menu, is that in the menu, Amanda? In that drop down
it's under
menu to the left?
subscriptions.
Auto subscriptions?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm going to try that today.
Yeah. So
Thank
you can set up a search and connect that. You're welcome. A good rule of thumb, no matter who you meet, if they give you their email and they're telling you about what they're looking for in a home, offer to send them updates so that they catch the latest and greatest before it's gone, and then get them on an auto email. You'd be really surprised how those come back around. I had somebody who I didn't talk to for a year, and I had been sending auto emails for 2.5 years, and then he just started communicating with me again.
Oh, wow.
And every once in a while I'd check in with him and see how he's doing, and he ended up buying a place. So if you can get those set up, you don't have to always be like, oh, who am I, and what are they looking for, and I have to send them something. You can just have it set and then follow through on it by, making sure you get the alerts when he opens them, contact him, and then, just see where he stands with things. It doesn't have to be like I saw you, did you find something you want? Let's go. But like, hey, just thinking about you, or I saw this one place, I thought it was interesting. Did you see it in your email? There's ways you can use that to touch base with people and not lose track of them.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your suggestions.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Anybody with any last thoughts before we sign off? Cool. Well, I want to thank everybody for, here, I'm just checking the notes here first. Auto emails. Yes, auto emails are great. So thank you all for showing up right after holiday weekend. Thank you for being open and honest and for sharing. It's really, really valuable to everyone that you are willing to kind of share your challenges and how you've gone about things. I know that can feel very exposing, but this is a safe space and I really appreciate it. I hope that my feedback isn't coming across as judgment. I want you all to be super successful. So that's where I'm coming from. You know, and what my approach is and the things I say and do are not the only way. And they're not always the best way, but it's how I've learned to do business and it's how I've been able to do a lot of business. So if you have other, you know, people out there that you're watching or want to emulate or want to take some thoughts from or get ideas from, that's okay. But hopefully this is helpful information and worthwhile for you to take the time to do this today. Reminder, if you have not, or if you have, text me to set up an accountability call. I want to know where you stand with your top 5. If you don't know what the top 5 is, that is a perfect reason to make a call. There is an email from Mandy that went out when you started that explains those. And there's a video in the launch group as well that I did about it. But accountability is an important piece of getting some traction, getting some momentum and accomplishing your goals. So we want all of you to close 5 deals, to have 5 happy clients and to move on from the program and show everybody, you know, how you benefited from it. So we're all rooting for you to do that and get some momentum and have some business, not waste too much time with people who aren't really ready, and you know, really build your business and find success. So that's what we're here for. If you have not walked through an offer to purchase or buyer agency agreement with somebody who can help you through it and you feel like you need that, call the helpline and schedule an appointment to go through that before you're writing one for an actual client. Practicing on your clients is malpractice. Do it before. So if you haven't done that yet, I highly encourage you, make that call to the helpline or text, schedule an appointment with Andy or Steph to go through that document. It will serve you and your clients very well, and it'll give you the confidence to go out there and get people, right? Like energy, universe, whatever, however you want to see these things, if you are ready and you carry that with you, it's going to make doors open. So get those top 5 down. If you don't have a lot going on right now, focus on your activities that get you business, make connections with people, and then get that stuff done if you have a lull. Sound good? All right, you guys have an awesome week. Don't forget to text me if you want to do accountability. I'll see you next Tuesday.
Amanda.
I'll see you next week.